The privilege to pray for our children.
Amen.
They get a joint privilege to pray for them. Because you never know what this will become one day. Today, it's a very special day. There are many things that are happening in July, the first week of July. It's the 31st anniversary of Philippine International Baptist Church. If you are visitor to this church. And when I came to this church in 1995, PABC was simply 8 years old. And probably the first deacons of the church, Kuya Abet Manso is now Pastor Abet. Kuya Edwin Tumbod is now Pastor Edwin Tumbod.
Amen.
Brother Mario Lopez, who were the first deacons of the church. They may not have been vision for 31 years later. They'll be standing in the church and still robust, and strong, and growing in the grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ. Amen?
Amen.
When I came in 1995, PAB is going on a pivot. Pastor Lem suffered a heart attack at the time in March. And the deacons, led by Brother Ed Salvador, is now Pastor Ed Salvador. Brother Efren Reyes, Pastor Edwin Tumlod, Brother George Ferreira, and Pastor Son Reyes. We never had any thought, for me personally, in 1985, that's 22 years later, that's 23 years ago, that this church will be stronger than ever has been before, but by the grace of God. So praise the Lord for that. First week of July is also the birthday of our Pastor Emeritus, Pastor Leonel Sonoy. I think 74, 75 years. And also the birthday of Sister Joy Marcos. I came to attend the debut of Sister Joy Marcos. So PABC has a lot of memories for me. But the one thing that I will never forget about PABC was how, before the young people lead the praise and worship, you would have the elders and the deacons of the church lead. You would sing hymns from the hymnals. Brother Pastor Edwin would lead us with singing, leaning on the everlasting arms, standing on the promise of God. Pastor Ed Salvador would sing, and I know whom I have believed it, or Brother Mike De Leon's favorite hymn. Brother Mike De Leon is here today. Welcome. And can it be? But the one thing that struck me most was this song. So sad are you. And probably it's appropriate that it would come to remembrance. Margaret Clarkson's life of missions was embodied in this, and it's also a challenge. It says, so sent are you to labor unrewarded, to serve unpaid, unloved, unsought, unknown, to bear rebuke, to suffer scorn and scoffing. So sent are you to toil for me alone. Another lyric says, so sent are you by grace made strong to triumph, or hosts of hell or darkness, death and sin. My name to bear and the name to conquer, so sent are you my victory to win. We are at the cusp of expansion as a church. We're hoping that in the next couple of years we'll have a Filipino service in the Vesper. We're hoping to plant 3 churches in Milton, Caledon, and Brampton Northwest.
Amen.
And we're hoping to expand our youth, starting its youth church every first Friday. We're in the middle of expansion as a church. We're in the middle of fulfilling what Jesus said, as the Father hath sent me, so sent I you. So what message should I be sharing with you, humbly, today? Our battle cry as a church: heart for God, hope for believers, hope for the world. And this year, both the Masonic Council, the leaders, and the church were led to have vision casting. And these are the 3 things we are going to pursue. Pursuing God and deepening Christ-centered affections, based on 1 Samuel 13:14, being a man after God's own heart, Psalm 7 verse 4, one thing I desire, and we gaze at the beauty of the Lord. Philippians 3:10, I want to know Christ and the power of His resurrection. Practicing the Holy Spirit's presence and living godly, holy lives in community. Romans 12:2. We are a Filipino church largely we are very communal. We love to be together. We live with each other and for each other. Galatians 2:20, I'm crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life I live in the flesh, I live by faith, Son of God, who loved me, gave himself for me. And lastly, proclaiming Christ and preaching passionately the gospel message. Members of PABC, these are the things we've been called to, at least in the next year or so. Pursuing God, practicing God's presence in community, and proclaiming Christ and preaching passionately the gospel message. 1 Peter is an encouragement for chosen people. I like this letter because there's the paradox contextually where Peter, under the persecution of Nero, AD 54 to 67, he was probably in prison, would be crucified upside down 3 years later, wrote this to the exiles according to the opening letter. Peter says, Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to those who are elect exiles of the dispersion in Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, according to the foreknowledge of God the Father in the sanctification of the Spirit for obedience to Jesus Christ. Very, very Trinitarian. Father, Son, and Spirit. There's Bithynia and Pontus, there's Galatia, there's Cappadocia, and the elect exiles. There are two meanings to that. When you are a Christian, especially in the time of Nero, you will have to be an exile because that is not your own, you're persecuted. You are dispersed. But the Apostle Peter uses the word elect exiles. And for the Calvinists among us, that's probably like the doctrine of election. I'm not going to get the doctrine of election. But he uses the elect exiles, meaning to say that the initiative to be saved did not come from those who are Christians or believers. And it also says that they are not simply Jews. They are Gentile Christians as well. They were dispersed throughout those provinces in Asia Minor where the Apostle Paul was able to go inside with the Holy Spirit. Now, interestingly, Cappadocia, for example, 4th century after the death of Christ, came Cappadocian fathers among the church fathers of the Christian faith. It means that the doctrine permeated those areas so much so that people grew in the grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ and they became strong adherents and followers and teachers of the Word of God. So when you read the Bible, there are some nuances there that really, when you look at it, you praise the Lord. That what Peter might have written in AD 64, by AD 400, you have strong church fathers and bishops in those areas. The Word of God was propagated and sunk deeply into the areas that was not penetrated before. There are two verses I would like to focus on. The first one is verse 4 and 5. As you come to him, a living stone, as Jesus, rejected by men, but in the sight of God, chosen and precious. And it says, you yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood and to offer spiritual sacrifice acceptable to God, to Jesus Christ. Now, the most common word in 1 Peter, the word suffer and suffering. Well, if you're under Nero, of course, you will suffer because Nero doesn't consider himself an emperor. He is God. And anybody who worships a God other than Nero is guilty of treason, which is punishable by death. So therefore, under Nero, you could lose your house, you cannot get a job, you could have your property confiscated, you'll be paupers, poor. In fact, Paul would affirm that in 2 Corinthians 8 when he talks about the Macedonian churches in extreme poverty. They lost everything, they had nothing under the reign of Nero. And so the Apostle Paul is saying, yes, I affirm your suffering. And yes, it is true, we are ordained to suffer for Christ. And yes, we groan under the weight of suffering. but your heart be encouraged about the Christ in you. You are a living stone. You are being built up as per your house. Now, the verse also says, you are a holy priesthood. Can you imagine if you were a Gentile in those times? And priesthood is limited only to the tribe of Levi, the Levitical priesthood. You have to be a Jew and you have to belong to the tribe of Levi. And now Peter saying, you are a royal priesthood. You belong to the priesthood of God. Your high priest is Jesus. It is redemptive because when you're a priest, what you do, you offer sacrifices. You offer sacrifices to God for the people. But since all people are priests, this is one of the tenets of the Reformation, the royal priesthood of believers. Before the Reformation, you have to go to the priest is authority in everything. You have to confess your sins to the priest. You cannot be absolved of your sin unless you confess to the priest. When Martin Luther came, and he said, sola fide, sola scriptura, sola gratia, sola Christi, only Christ, only the Word of God says we now are priests. We are a royal priesthood of believers. That is when we can confess our sins one to another. That's when we can offer sacrifices. In fact, the sacrifices we're going to offer are not the sacrifices that were done before. Romans 12, 1 and 2. I appeal to you, therefore, with the mercy of God, present your bodies as a living sacrifice. A holy priesthood. Holy simply means set apart to God. Acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Only through Jesus Christ. The imputed righteousness. There's nothing you and I can do. It was done on the cross of Calvary. Only through Jesus Christ. That's what we call imputation. Imputed righteousness. Nothing is good in us. Everything is wicked except that's done by Jesus Christ. And the other verse also is, I love this one, but you are, because of the verb, not past tense, but you are, your identity, a chosen race, a royal priesthood, because your priest, high priest, a royal priest, Jesus. You're a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellences of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. The past, you live in darkness. You have no way of getting out of darkness. The present, you are chosen race. The future, you proclaim the excellences of him. How does it apply to us as a church at the cusp of an expansion that God is calling us into? Let's look at Peter. Peter is a man of intense passion. I like the picture of the lion because your enemy is like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. He invested 100% of himself, everything he did. I like the Apostle Paul because of the discipline. I identify with the weaknesses of the Apostle Peter. He lived in the ring of extremes. I hope it's not bipolar. Extremes. Always familiar with the exercise of success and the sting of defeat. He approached all life with a sense of reckless abandon. Look at the things that Peter did. The disciples saw Jesus walk in the water. They thought it was a ghost. And Jesus said, it is I, do not be afraid. And Peter said, if it's really you, let me walk on the water. Come. And started walking the waters. But then he hears the roaring waves and the winds, the howling winds, and he started to sink. And then Jesus said, Lord, help me. Reckless abandon. Jesus says to him, you little faith, why did you doubt? The other thing as well is Matthew 16, the third key passage about the Church of Christ. Jesus said, who do people say I am? You are Elijah, you are one of the prophets. What about you, Peter? Cephas, what about you? You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Fulfillment of Genesis 49. And then Jesus says, blessed art thou. Blessed are you, Peter, because nobody has revealed this to you except God. And then it says, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build the church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. Then later on, Jesus would say, the Son of Man will be crucified and killed. And Peter said, no, I will not let it happen to you. That's a few verses in Matthew 16. And then Jesus says, get thee behind Satan. You have the things of men. Can you imagine that kind of breakfast abandon? And of course, the denial of Peter. We'll never forget that. I will be with you if they're going to kill you today. Really, Peter? Simon, Simon, Satan has asked me to sift you, but I've asked of God to preserve you. 3 times tonight when the cock crows, you will deny me. And he denies Jesus 3 times. That is why, according to historical records, when Peter was to be crucified like his master, he said, I am not worthy to be crucified like my master, crucified me upside down. But before that, to torture him, they first killed his wife. And then only 3 words to his wife. It wasn't I love you. It was remember the Lord. A life given to God. Intensely passionate, recklessly abandoned to Christ. So when he writes those words in 1 Peter chapter 2, we listen. He has the right. He bore in his body the death of Jesus Christ. Amen? Amen. The key themes of the book are suffering for Christ, all very, very Christocentric, Christ-centered. Suffering for Christ brings exaltation for his followers. Do not be afraid if you're going to suffer for sake. You'll be exalted by God. Church of Christ, the new temple, the new Islam, the new people of God. Christ's followers have an assured hope and end-time inheritance. It is not an uncertain hope. It is an assured hope. I stand foursquare. As we would love to sing before. I know whom I have delivered. And I am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him until that day. I know whom I have delivered. And I am persuaded. Nothing can separate from the love of God. He who began a good work in you will finish it until the day of Christ. And then Christ's substitutionary death is the basis for the new life. Without the death of Christ on the cross, without the shedding of the blood, there's no remission of sin. Therefore, without the death, the only acceptable sacrifice, there's no basis for the new life. There's no regeneration. There's no transformation of life. Only to the substitute of Christ through his death on the cross. The exemplification modeling of suffering of the faith. You have a Lord and Savior who suffered, though he had no sin. Why would we refuse to suffer for his sake? And I like this one, the victory over fallen powers was shown in his resurrection. He affirms what Paul said in Colossians, that when Jesus rose from the dead, he put to shame the fallen principalities. What are the struggles in life you have? You are victorious already in that, because Christ is risen from the dead. And then the transformative regenerating acts on the basis of life of love and hope, holiness. 5 points, very quickly. First is, knowing Christ more intimately involves appreciating him as the cornerstone of our spiritual house. Of course, Peter was using a metaphor. He's building a spiritual house. You are the spiritual house, the church. Verse 4. As you come to him, a living stone rejected but in the sight of God, chosen and precious, you yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Brother Rene is an architect, and he knows what a cornerstone. Cornerstone is a critical and very first stone set in the construction masonry foundation. As the stone is laid in the core of the foundation, it becomes the reference point for all other stones laid subsequent to it. Everything finds its definition in that one piece, the cornerstone. It assures you that the building spirit is made. So if you are founded on the cornerstone of Christ, if the church is founded on the cornerstone of Christ, it is secure, it is stable, and all the rest of the building will follow that cornerstone. That is why Peter was right in saying, the cornerstone is Jesus Christ. And he's not alone in saying this. Old Testament passages, Isaiah 8, verse 16, therefore thus says the Lord, Behold, and the one was laid as a foundation in Zion, a stone, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone of a sure foundation. Psalm 118, verse 22, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. And Isaiah 8:14, which later will be cited. The stone that is Jesus Christ becomes a stone of consolation to those who believe and a stumbling block to those who do not. Can you imagine the paradox in the same stone? We see two different lives. The redeemed are comforted with the fact that the person is Jesus, but the unbelieving heart, the unregenerate heart, doesn't see him as a cornerstone, but it becomes a stumbling block. The Apostle Paul would write in Romans 9:33, quoting the same verses in Isaiah. But in Ephesians 2:20, he affirms what Peter said. Ephesians was written in AD 62. Peter was written, First Peter was in AD 64, 2 years later. Two different authors, two different contexts, same historical scenario, reign of Nero, built on the foundation of apostles and prophets, Christ himself being the cornerstone. The challenge for us, how is he really becoming the cornerstone of our faith, moment by moment and day by day? How is he becoming? How are we patterning our lives after the chief cornerstone in Jesus? Paul said in Romans 8, and those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of the Son, that he will be the firstborn among many brothers. The second point is knowing Christ is more intimately involves a desiring for the pure spiritual milk. I am lactose intolerant, so it's very hard for me to understand. How shall I crave milk? But he's referring more to the Word of God that's nourishing us. Now, when you study this, the context of this, verse 2, like newborn infants, long for the pure spiritual milk that may be grown into salvation. There are two difficulties in this passage. The first difficulty is it referring to young Christians or to mature Christians? But the construct of the grammatical construct says that like newborn infants, so it's not referring to young Christians. He's referring to the elect exiles of this portion. So they probably have some sort of maturity in the faith, which could refer to us in context. We are to crave, we are to long, we are to desire for pure spiritual milk. Nobody can say in our journey that we have arrived. You can get your PhD, your pilot high in theology, divinity, and all that sort of thing. Can you imagine master of divinity? You master divinity, divinity mastership. You can get all of that and still miss the mark. Desiring the pure spiritual milk. And according to Peter, that by the spiritual milk you may grow up into salvation. What's salvation? I thought once saved, always saved. I thought once I accept Jesus, I am already saved. Well, salvation is three phases, right? Salvation, which is justification. We have been saved from the penalty of sin. And sanctification, we are being saved from the power of sin, which is the struggle with sin. And one day in glorification, we shall be saved from the presence of sin. The Word of God guards us, enables us to discern and to be sensitive to what God is telling us in our walk with Him. Because later on, Peter would talk about the conduct that we are to be amongst the Gentiles. But what I noticed in the years of discipleship, those who are led in discipleship that are very diligent, take note of those who will be discipling this next weekend. 5 disciplines of the Word. They read the Word of God on a daily basis. They meditate on the Word of God on a daily basis. They listen to the Word of God as often as they can. They memorize the Word of God as often as they can. And they study the Word of God. 5 fingers. And then they apply the Word of God. They are the ones who you see the growth in them. That after a period of time, they can actually lead and disciple others, who will also be leading and discipling others. But those whom I have seen in years that are so sporadic and spontaneous, They would read the Word of God and they go up like a rocket ship and it falls down flat. There's no consistency, there's no diligence. That is why I said that if you're going to a discipleship program, at least 2 years. Because it's not the knowledge, it's the skill and the habit and the attitude that you're developing in all those months and weeks and days of leading, preparing, most importantly, of growing in intimacy with God. Under the mentorship or the discipleship of someone who is also growing. But to intimately know Jesus, you can't know Jesus more intimately if you don't desire the Word that comes from Him. His Word sanctifies us according to Him. The Word is truth, sanctified in truth. Brother Ephraim was very nice in sharing to me. Many of us find prayer warriors about this video of this converted Muslim to the faith. And what struck him, what he studied the Quran, there are only 10 references to the Prophet Muhammad, but 25 to Isa, Jesus Christ. 25. So it must be important. And then he looked at the Quranic passages and he realized that the Creator was the creation was done to the Word of God. And he keeps referring to the Word of God until he realized that the Word of God is Isa, Jesus. Muhammad is not the Word of God. So how can this be? So is the Word of God creator or creation? So he went to that. I encourage you to ask about it, to forward to you. You would love this 5-minute clip. It's an interview of a Muslim convert. But he realized the Word of God, which is Jesus Christ, the living Word of God, has the power to transform even in an Islamic nation like that person belonged to. So if that is so, it's powerful enough to change and transform lives. How come we don't desire it as much as we do? Not that I espouse bibliolatry, idolatry the Bible, that you worship the Bible like William Barclay, and you forget the object of the Bible. We are also the Word of God. The Bible is the written Word of God. But Jesus is the living Word of God, and we are the witnessing Word of God. But the witnessing Word of God's witness will be effective if it is grounded on the living Word of God that transforms us from glory to glory. That's a walk with God must be more deepening intimacy that is centered on Christ alone.
Yes.
Knowing Jesus Christ going to be affirms as living stones being built up as a spiritual house. The slogan, second slogan or second saying here, this is home for the believers. And in vision casting, we said, how do we actualize this? How do we practicalize this? Well, Romans 12:1-2, present your bodies as a living sacrifice, Galatians 2:20, Ephesians 5. We practice the Holy Spirit's presence in living godly holy lives in community. Because in the West, in North America, we are too prone to be individualistic. My own personal Jesus. It's between me and my God. Well, not really. We are in community. The Bible says, when one part of the body suffers, the whole body suffers. We are part of each other. We need each other. You know how many times the phrase each other was used in the New Testament alone? At least 13 times. It must be that important. We need each other. Apart from each other, we're like dying embers. So we need to practice the Spirit's presence in living godly holy lives in community. We need to hold each other accountable. Accountable. We need each other to show each other a blind side. Years ago, Brother Neil talked about the search for significance, and he said about our blind sides. You know, you always have to look at the blind side so that you don't get into changing lanes and there's another car behind you. But we need somebody to tell us, brother, I think you're off. Sister, I think you're told to not gossip about our sisters in the case of hypershare. I think we have to edify them about it. But how do we do that? As a Christ-centered Baptist church family, we should provide an environment for participation in corporate calling and purpose, loving our neighbors an essential expression of spiritual life, Brother Ernest was very passionate and was encouraged about that, asking the Bessari Council to approve having this Sikh outreach, a congregation of East Indian, to use our facilities at least once a month. They can reach out. This is a predominantly South Asian community, a Filipino predominantly South Asian community, and you have an outreach amongst them. That's a blessing. And we'd like to encourage and pray for that. We are not alone in this community.
Amen. Amen.
Ministry and service, expression of unity and diversity. We are diverse. Just like when you're building this, the women prepare the food, the men put the floorboards, Pastor Edwin did the plan. The rest, it was unity, putting together various capabilities. Those who are good in finances, source the funds. Those who are good in service, they did service, and others prayed. So this is a work of all together in the body. This is actually an expression of that. A support for those in physical, emotional, financial need. We don't want our church to be something to go to, like a mega church where, yeah, that's a good message. What's the message about? I forgot, but it's a good message. We want something that challenges us. When we leave the portals of this, that's something to think about. I really want to dig deeper into that. Was it for real? Is it authentic? Is it genuine? Did it talk much as the walk? An environment of growth and transformation, a celebration for others gives an existence for others. When the founder of Salvation Army was dying, he was asked to give a message to the church. And he sent a message, only one word. You know what that word was? Others. Others. It is so it is so short-sighted, myopic, to look at our own needs alone. I remember it saying, I complained about my shoes until I met a man with no feet. It's too short-sighted to keep it to ourselves. The coffee smells so good, you can't help but share it to someone else. Existence for others. Fourthly, knowing this lesson will inspire us to love God more profoundly with our identity in Him, our ontology, the ontos, the being. There's a psychologist that said, people who bet more and realize more on their being rather than on their doing are far more secure in themselves. We are not human doings, we are human beings. We are not what we do. We are because of whose we are. And Peter said that. You are a chosen race. You didn't choose God. God chose you.
Amen.
You are a royal priesthood. You are not like any priests in the temple of Apollos in Corinth. You are a royal priesthood because your high priest is a royal priest. He is king, priest, and prophet, as Jesus Christ. That you may proclaim a people for his own possession. That's why we want to say that we act what we do, hopefully because of whose we are. Whose we are. When I was a new convert back then in the Jewish Bibles, there were those saying, oh, those are the born against. They are the fools for Christ. And so we made a t-shirt that says, I'm a fool for Christ. Whose fool are you? Everybody's a fool for somebody. I'd rather be a fool for Christ. Because of whose we are. Who owns us? Who owns you? Who blind and sinker? Who is the person that you die without? That's the person who owns you. That you may proclaim, it doesn't end there, you may proclaim the excellence of Him who called you out of darkness in this marvelous light. Always, always, always be eternally grateful and indebted to the God who took me out of a dark, very dark life. I was along the same path as Brother Tim was. We were fighting against imperialism, against neo-colonialism, against feudalism and bureaucrat capitalism in the Philippines. We were marching to transform society. Then somebody told me, hey, brother, an unreformed reformer still down his pipes. You want to reform the world? Reform your heart first. Doug Hammarskjöld said that. The world needs a revolution. A revolution from within. A revolution that only God can do in Christ Jesus.
Amen.
Lastly, knowing Jesus Christ more intimately encourages us to live this name by our lifestyles, our conduct, and our character. If you love this Christ intimately, that you seek Him daily, moment by moment, you cannot help but live a lifestyle and a conduct that is pleasing to Him. Why? Because of many reasons. He says, "Behold, I urge you as sojourners and exiles, You do not belong to this world. This world doesn't own you. This world shall pass away. Sic transit gloria mundi. Thus passeth the glory of the world in nothing." What does it mean to us? If you hang on to this world, you will hang on to nothing. Aristotle Onassis, one of the richest men in the world in the 1960s, married the most beautiful woman at that time, Jacqueline Kennedy. Very rich, very powerful, very famous. He piloted an airplane, a jet plane that crashed, killed his only son. His daughter became very bitter against him, married his worst enemies. And then he could not even cry because there was a tear duct problem. And when he died, his friend said, "We walk like gods, we forgot we are not one." Sojourners and exiles in this world. This is not our home by any means of imagination. We are just a passing through. And if you forget that for a moment, you will think that all the things you're working about, the career that you're building up, the children you're raising up, the family you have, the homes that you're making so beautiful, the cruises or the vacations you're going through, heaven and earth will pass away. That will pass away. The last 2 days I was listening to this song, "Only One Life, Soon It Will Pass." And it says, the days pass by so swiftly. The people you've seen, the places, they all become but memories. Only one life, soon it will pass. Only what's done for Christ to last. Sojourners and exiles. This is not our home by any means of imagination. But he also says, abstain from the passions of the flesh. What are the passions in your heart that you can give and surrender to Jesus? What are the passions in your flesh that you find very, very difficult to say, take this away from me? I don't want to have this. And look, the way it is structured, they wage war against your soul. You are not in a battleground, you're not in a playground, you're in a battleground. Every day that you live for Jesus, you're fighting a battle. Because passions of your flesh will wage war against you. And then he encourages, keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God with their visitation. When I was in Moldova years ago, there was this story about this missionary who had been a missionary to Pakistan, or Pakistan or Afghanistan, in a predominantly Muslim community. And then when the extremists came, and they knew that they were missionaries, they tried to storm the home of the missionaries. And the missionaries, unarmed, they just prayed to God. They just knelt and prayed for God's deliverance and protection. You know what happened? The other members of the community, who were also Muslims, stood in guard around them. And they said, don't harm them. These people were good to us. When we were sick, they visited us, gave us medicines. When we were hungry, they fed us. When we were grieving, they comforted us. Why would you kill them? Your conduct among the Gentiles is honorable. But when they speak against you as evildoers, they receive good deeds. And what happens? And glorify God on the day of visitation. It's not your deeds, but the God will visit us. Visitation. Always focus on that. How do I keep my conduct among the Gentiles honorable? PNBC will say, we become a home for the world. You proclaim Christ and you preach passionately the gospel message, if necessary, we use words. I love that from Francis of Assisi said. Preach the gospel. and if necessary, use words. Because sometimes we preach the gospel with words, but our actions are lacking. We learn to live lifestyle of friendship, evangelism, cross interculture. Brother Manuel sent an email last week about saying our conference on Friday, Saturday discipleship is life on life. LOL. For those who are using text, Twitter, Instagram, it's LOL on Saturday.
No.
It's not laugh out loud, it's life on life discipleship. Leading intentionally investigative Bible study. Intentionally investigating the truth of the Bible. And so, I have a friend in Portland who will go to bars and will talk to agnostics and atheists there. Said, yeah, give me 10 reasons why you don't believe in Christianity. I'll give you 10 more. But it's a good point. Let's have a conversation. Let's go for coffee. I may disagree with what you say, but let's engage it in a nice conversation. Investigative Bible study. You debunk the claims of the Bible, have read cover to cover. Why don't we study? Just one book, Book of John. Let's see, who is this Christ? Investigative Bible study. Teaching the basics of knowing the Word and practicing prayer. Raising one-on-one disciples and then we will disciple others also. I am a big proponent of discipleship one-on-one. I'm not big on small groups. The people that understand me, I fear. Because I always speak the wrong syllable. But the idea of having only one is actually to imprint my life and to hold me accountable. If I'm discipling someone else and I tell that person to read the Bible, I have to read the Bible too. If I'm telling that person, teaching that person to pray, I need to be a prayer warrior. I miss those times with Pastor Edwin. We go to Erindale Park and we pray there for a couple of hours while being beaten by mosquitoes. Right, Pastor Edwin? We will be praying for the souls that he desires to reach out for Jesus by name. But you imprint your life by the kind of life you live. And of course, my favorite is engage our theology in the culture of our day. Because far too often, many of our young ones, our young people, they leave the church because they find our faith in the Bible, in Christ, irrelevant and insignificant. Because we didn't engage our theology. One of our members here, I'll never forget, 8 years ago, when he shared to me that his son said to him, why are you ramming what you believe in into my throat? Why don't you just let me discover it by myself? Like, wow. I have to check myself. Am I also forcing my children to believe what I believe in without allowing them a space to know LGBTQ issues, things like that, global climate change, global slave trade, cross-culture among different faiths. So how engaging are we in our theology with the culture of our day? We stand for a heart for God, home for believers, and hope for everything that Peter said in the passage we have read. And this year, the inspiration for us, the encouragement, is to pursue God and deepen our Christ-centered affections. To reach a new level of our walk with Him that we haven't seen before. Not to stagnate and say, I'm alive. I'm still learning of this. Giant Sequoia, California. Their biggest trees. 300 years. Cut it down. 300 years. No rains. And there's a pit that says, I'm still growing. How long are you in the pit? Are you still growing deeply? Are there so many things that you're learning? Are there still things that you're so excited to share to people about in your walk with Him? Not these stale lessons of the past, but the most recent ones. We attended the wedding of my niece-in-law last night. And I was blessed because the father, who is an unbeliever, said two things that struck me. He said, you have to honor what you have said about, seekers of help, which are for poorer, for better, or for worse, to that your part. But you cannot do that if Christ is the center of the relationship. Same thing applies to us, Christ-centered. The other thing he said was, you have to protect your family, and one of the things you do is don't work on Sundays. I think for me, the thing is that it's not work on Sundays, but setting a particular day in a week that you worship God. Because if you don't, you're running on empty. You're running on empty. And if you run on empty, that's bad. Depression, burnout, fatigue, exhaustion, and you're not useful in the name of the Lord. Pursue God in deeper presence and affections. Practice the Lord's presence and living godly, holy lives in community, holding each other accountable, and proclaim Christ and preach Him passionately in the gospel message, if necessary, use words. But my prayer is that indeed, in the days ahead, we'll find ourselves thanking God for every moment given to us, that we can grow more and more in the likeness of Christ. That more and more people will see what's in you, what makes you think, I want to have what you have. I want to be just like Jesus. And maybe one day, we'll get a card that says, you have done so much to make Christ very real in my life. You have done so much to make Christ real, authentic, experiential in my life. Let's pray. Father in heaven, I bless your name for your word and for the reality of your presence in our midst right now. And I thank you because you are eternally articulate God who will articulate to your people what you want us to do, what you want us to do. Perchance, in our midst right now, there's a questioning heart or a seeking heart or somebody who hasn't come to know you in a personal way. I pray that you open the ears of understanding and the eyes of wisdom of that person or those persons, Father, for your name's sake. That indeed, they will seek you because you promised that when we seek you, we will find you when we seek you with all our hearts, O God. I pray that the gospel will be articulated, shared, witnessed, testified for by your people at PIBC and where we're going to call us, Father God, for your name's sake. That they will see that Jesus who died and rose again. Lord, I pray, Father God, that you so minister to your people at our very points of need and be our sufficiency. We bless you and we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.